In 1985, a man walked into a foreign embassy carrying a plain envelope. No guards reacted. No alarm sounded. To everyone watching, he looked like another government employee running an errand during lunch hour. Slightly tired, professionally dressed, completely forgettable. Inside the envelope was information capable of dismantling intelligence operations across continents. Within months, agents began disappearing. Operations failed before they even started. Entire intelligence networks collapsed without explanation. Analysts across multiple countries reached the same terrifying conclusion. Someone known inside the system was feeding secrets outward. But the real shock was still coming, because the person responsible wasn't a trained spy. He wasn't recruited by ideology, and he didn't begin with betrayal in mind. He was simply a man who discovered something dangerous about modern power. The people closest to secrets are often the ones nobody notices. And what investigators would later uncover made the situation far worse. He wasn't working for one side. He was secretly selling information to both. Before the headlines, before the investigations, before the accusations, his life was painfully normal. A quiet suburban street lawns, trimmed every Saturday. Neighbors who waved but never stayed long enough to talk. He drove the same route to work every morning, arriving at a government facility that looked more like an office complex than a place holding national secrets. Inside, fluorescent lights hummed endlessly. Cubicles stretched in identical rows. Coffee machines never quite worked properly. He was not important. At least, that's what everyone believed. His job involved managing classified communications, organizing files, maintaining records, ensuring information moved between departments smoothly. He didn't create intelligence. He didn't make decisions. He simply handled flow, and that made him invisible. Security systems focused on authority figures, commanders, analysts, policymakers. Nobody worried about the person organizing paperwork. But over time, something changed. Patterns began revealing themselves. Which names appeared repeatedly. Which operations required sudden coordination between agencies. Individually, the details meant nothing. Together, they formed a map. No of secrets, but of how secrets moved. And understanding movement meant understanding vulnerability. At first, no, because he was smarter, but because he saw connections no one else had time to notice. Outside work, frustration quietly grew. Promotions passed him by. Recognition went elsewhere. His salary barely kept pace with rising expenses. He felt replaceable. Invisible, and invisibility has a strange psychological effect. It convinces people their actions don't matter, until one day they realize they might matter more than anyone suspects. The idea didn't arrive dramatically. It appeared as a question. Small, almost harmless. What if someone would pay for information nobody else valued? Most people dismissed dangerous thoughts immediately. He didn't. He examined the idea logically. Foreign governments gathered intelligence constantly. Everyone knew that. Spying wasn't unusual. Only getting caught was. He told himself he wasn't betraying anyone. He was simply testing curiosity. The first contact was cautious. Anonymous communication sent through indirect channels. A message short enough to deny if discovered. I have access to information. Days passed without response. Then weeks. He almost forgot about it. Until instructions arrived. A meeting location, public safe. Ordinary. The embassy lobby smelled faintly of polished floors and recycled air. A man greeted him politely. No threats, no drama, just calm professionalism. They didn't ask for major secrets, only proof. Something verifiable but limited. He returned home conflicted. Fear competed with excitement. For several nights, he barely slept. Finally, he selected a minor document, operationally insignificant but authentic. When payment arrived days later, reality shifted instantly. The envelope contained more money than he earned in months. His hands trembled. No, from guilt, from realization. The system had rewarded him. And nothing bad had happened. He went to work the next morning exactly as before. Colleagues joked. Supervisors smiled. Security remained unchanged. The world continued normally. That normality became the most dangerous reassurance of all. Because the moment fear disappears, rationalization begins. And rationalization is how ordinary people cross irreversible lines. The second exchange felt easier. He convinced himself the information wasn't harmful. Governments spied on each other constantly. He was just participating in a hidden game everyone already played. Payments increased. Gradually, carefully, he avoided sudden lifestyle changes. Small upgrades first. Better furniture. Minor renovations. Nothing obvious. But internally, something transformed. For the first time in years, he felt powerful, important, needed. At work, he began observing information differently. No, as responsibility, as inventory. Which documents held higher value? Which patterns revealed upcoming operations? He wasn't stealing randomly anymore. He was curating intelligence. Meanwhile, intelligence agencies noticed unexplained failures. Agents lost contact. Operations compromised too quickly. Surveillance targets vanished before capture. Analysts suspected advanced foreign capabilities. Technology upgrades. Internal strategy leaks. No one imagined the cause was administrative access. Because intelligence culture often assumes complexity. The truth was painfully simple. By the time investigators realized someone inside might be responsible, the damage had already spread across multiple countries, and he was only getting started. Success changed his thinking. Working with one buyer felt risky. Working with two felt safe. If one side suspected him, the other could protect him. It was a dangerous illusion, but one that felt logical. He initiated contact with a second intelligence service. Carefully separated. Different methods. Different communication channels. Soon he managed two parallel relationships. Each side believed they controlled him. Each side believed he was loyal. He balanced disclosures strategically, never giving identical information, never revealing full truth to either buyer. Money flowed steadily. His confidence grew into arrogance. He believed he understood the system better than the system understood him. But intelligence organizations measure time differently. They do not react quickly, they observe. They wait. They analyze patterns across years. And slowly, patterns began pointing back toward him, because somewhere inside a secure analysis room, an investigator noticed a coincidence too precise to ignore. And for the first time, his invisibility began to fade. The investigation didn't begin with suspicion. It began with math. Analysts mapped failed operations, compared timelines, tracked access point. Departments narrowed. Personnel lists shortened. His name appeared quietly among dozens of possibilities. Nothing conclusive, just statistical irregularity. He accessed systems slightly more often than average, stayed late occasionally, reviewed documents outside primary assignment. All explainable, but intelligence work depends on accumulation. Small anomalies build narratives. Surveillance authorization followed, discreet, legal, invisible. His trash was examined. Financial patterns reviewed. Movements monitored. Weeks passed. He noticed nothing. Because professional surveillance is designed to feel like ordinary life continuing uninterrupted. And that illusion allowed investigators to gather what they needed. Evidence, patience, replaced urgency. The net tightens slowly. The man who believed he controlled two intelligence agencies had no idea he had already become the center of a silent investigation that would end everything. Inside intelligence aides, investigations rarely begin with accusations. They begin with silence. Analysts worked late nights comparing timelines across failed operations. At first, nothing aligned clearly. Intelligence failures happen constantly. Bad data, human error, coincidence. But patterns resist randomness. Operations compromise within hours of authorization. Agents exposed shortly after communication transfers. Sensitive missions failing before deployment. Individually explainable. Together, impossible. Investigators stopped asking who leaked information and started asking a more precise question: who had access to all the moments before failure? Access logs were reviewed. Departments filtered. Personnel lists narrowed slowly, methodically. Dozens of names became 20 became 7 became 3. His name remained. No. Because he behaved suspiciously. Because statistically, he appeared too often near compromised material. Still, suspicion alone meant nothing. They needed proof, and proof required patience. Surveillance authorization expanded. Financial analysts examined years of transactions. Behavioral specialists studied routine patterns. Field agents began quiet observation. No confrontation. No warning. Just watching. Meanwhile, he continued life normally, unaware that every movement now contributed to a growing case file. The investigation didn't accelerate because of espionage evidence. It accelerated because of money. And money always leaves a trail. For years, he had been careful. Cash payments, indirect exchanges, no obvious transfers, but success breeds comfort. Comfort breeds small risks. A financial adjustment, minor in his mind, triggered automated review. An unexplained deposit linked indirectly to overseas accounts. No, illegal on its surface. Just inconsistent. Financial investigators flagged it quietly. Cross-referencing began. Lifestyle analysis followed. His spending slightly exceeded documented income. Nothing extravagant. Just enough to raise questions. The investigation shifted from statistical anomaly to active suspicion. Surveillance intensified. Agents searched discarded materials, recovered fragments of notes. Phone patterns analyzed, travel histories reconstructed. Still, investigators waited. Espionage cases collapse without undeniable evidence. They needed certainty, so they watched longer. And eventually, certainty arrived. A monitored communication confirmed unauthorized contact. The case was complete. After years of secrecy, the invisible employee had unknowingly scheduled the final day of his freedom. Morning began like every other. Coffee brewing. News playing softly in the background. Routine creates psychological safety, a belief that tomorrow will resemble yesterday. Outside, unmarked vehicles arrived quietly. Agents coordinated positions calmly. No urgency, no chaos. Only precision. The knock came mid-morning, professional, measured. When he opened the door, he immediately understood. Some people later claimed he looked shocked. Investigators disagreed. They said he looked tired, as if part of him had expected this moment for years. He was informed of the charges, escorted calmly. Neighbors watched through curtains, confused by the sudden attention surrounding someone they barely noticed before. Within hours, news networks broadcast the story worldwide. A trusted insider. Years of betrayal, global consequences. The ordinary man became international headline material overnight. But investigators soon realized something unsettling. Understanding why he did it would prove harder than proving that he did it. Interrogations lasted weeks. Psychologists joined investigators. They expected ideology, political anger. Instead, they encountered complexity. He admitted financial motivation. But money alone didn't explain persistence. Gradually, another truth emerged. He felt invisible, ignored professionally, underestimated socially. Espionage gave him identity, importance, control. For years, powerful governments reacted to information only he could provide. He mattered. That feeling became addictive. Each successful exchange reinforced the belief he was smarter than the system. Investigators recognized a recurring pattern seen throughout intelligence history. Betrayal often begins not with hatred, but with unmet recognition. Yet, the greatest damage wasn't psychological. It was operational, and its consequences were still unfolding. Trials revealed staggering losses. Intelligence assets compromised across multiple regions. Years of strategic planning erased. Operations abandoned permanently. Allied agencies forced to rebuild networks from nothing. Trust fractured between partners who once shared information freely. Security procedures worldwide changed overnight. Background investigations intensified. Excess, limitations redesigned. But one reality disturbed intelligence leaders most. He never hacked systems, never used advanced spy technology, never performed dramatic espionage techniques. He simply understood access and waited. The lesson reshaped intelligence philosophy forever. The greatest vulnerabilities were not technological, they were human. Even after conviction, intelligence officials faced a chilling realization. The damage would continue long after he disappeared from headlines. Court proceedings attracted massive attention. Reporters sought dramatic explanations. The public wanted a villain. Instead, they saw an ordinary man sitting quietly, answering questions calmly. He received a life sentence. No dramatic speech. No political statement. Just finality. Prison replaced secrecy with routine. Concrete walls replaced classified offices. For the first time in years, information moved without him. Yet intelligence agencies continued analyzing past damage. Some compromised operations could never be restored. Some losses would remain permanently classified. History absorbed the consequences quietly. But the story didn't truly end with imprisonment. Because espionage, stories rarely end with one person. They end with lessons. After the case closed, agencies worldwide changed procedures. Behavioral monitoring expanded. Financial tracking improved. Psychological evaluations increased. Training shifted focus toward insider threats. Yet experts admitted privately, no system can completely predict human decisions. Technology detects anomalies, but motives form silently, in private thoughts, in unnoticed frustrations, in moments where ordinary people convince themselves their actions matter less than they actually do. And that uncertainty remains intelligence work's greatest challenge, because somewhere, at any given moment, another ordinary employee might be discovering the same dangerous realization. Years later, the headlines faded. New crises replaced old scandals, but within intelligence communities, his story remained a warning. No. About espionage skill, about invisibility. The most effective spy wasn't the most trained or the most ideological. It was the person nobody noticed long enough to question. Today, secure facilities operate with stronger protections. Algorithms analyze behavior. Security cultures evolve constantly. Yet one truth persists. Systems are built by humans. And humans remain unpredictable. Somewhere right now, someone sits behind a desk organizing information, answering emails, following procedures, feeling unnoticed. History suggests that occasionally one of those people realizes how much power quiet access truly holds. And when that realization meets opportunity, the cycle begins again. History remembers wars, leaders, and revolutions. But sometimes, the events that shape the world begin quietly, with an ordinary person holding an envelope no one thinks to question. Subscribe for more true stories hidden behind history's headlines.